Hello there, and welcome to the first episode of A Flexible Life with Tori. My name is Tori, and I have hypermobile Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, POTS, and we suspect MCAS, but still figuring that out. One of the things that I was the most surprised about when I got the diagnosis was how much my life changed and continued to change as my body continued to age. And I think that's something that we don't really talk about a lot in the community. Is we talk a lot about advocacy and we talk a lot about, things that we do that help us, but not so much how much we have to create flexibility within our own lives to actually sustain any type of life with this disease. And I don't think that this is unique purely to Ehlers-Danlos syndrome. I think this is kind of unanimous throughout chronic illness, whatever it is. If you're dealing with a chronic, constant thing every day, it's something that you can't really anticipate. It's something that you might wake up feeling great, or you might wake up feeling like crap. And we still have to kind of plan our days or try to make some sort of forward momentum. And so at least for me, what tends to happen is I will make a list of all of these grandiose ideas and dreams of things that I want to do. And then I will wake up on that day and maybe I'm hit with a really bad flare or a really bad pain or something's out of joint. And the obvious answer is, well, just wait until you're feeling better. But that can feel like a very terrifying phrase to someone who has a chronic illness, who feels bad 99% of the time. And it's all random and you never know when you're going to actually feel better. And so for me, it can become really difficult to find the barometer of when do I push myself, when do I rest? And not beating myself up for needing to have that flexibility in my life, for needing to say, no, today I woke up like this. I need to rest or hydrate and maybe take a bath or do this or whatever and tend to myself in that way today, and to have that trust and that faith that I'm going to get a better day tomorrow or the next day or the day after that, where I will be able to get these things done. And as someone who really enjoys planning things and feels very comfortable and secure when I am able to tick everything off of my box, it's been really difficult to accept that in my world. And I'm assuming probably I'm not the only one. And so I wanted to, we can air concerns. I eventually hope to have guests come on that I can talk to and really dive into what it looks like to live our best life with a chronic illness, and how to not just kind of grudgingly accept the forced flexibility that comes with that, but kind of learning to thrive in that sort of acrobatic schedule of I'm up, I'm down, I'm swinging on a trampoline and I can't get off, someone come save me. Like all of that kind of comes with living your life with the unpredictability of chronic illness. When I was thinking about starting the podcast, I was like, what story really encompasses the feeling of being out and about with a chronic illness? And I keep coming back to my absolute favorite interaction with someone with my chronic illness, which was with a Frenchman in New York City. And I find this story hilarious. I find most interactions with people about my chronic illness funny in some way, shape, or form, unless they're actually being aggressive. But those aren't really fun stories. Those are like, I'm sad now stories. So I'm not going to tell you the story about the lady who was yelling at me on the plane, demanding that I prove to her and everyone else on the plane that I was actually sick. I'm going to tell you the story of the melancholy Frenchman. I met this Frenchman in New York City. We were probably about 16 blocks from Broadway, and we were both in our hotel, the hotel I presume he was staying at as well. I was coming in from a night out on the town, and I had my little purple metal cane with me. And I want to note, nowhere else I've ever been has been so accepting and cool about me having a walking aid than New York City. The people were so chill and nice and considerate of it the entire time, no matter where I went, it didn't matter where I was. It was just people were really considerate and nice. I don't know if that was just a lucky experience that I had, but that's been my experience in New York. So I was getting into the elevator, and the Frenchman got into the elevator, and it was just him and I. And he is kind of very solemn, and he has this sort of like, serious look on his face, and you could tell he's really mulling on something. And he looks at me and he's like, how long is that, or is that going to be a thing? How long are you going to have that? Gesturing to the cane. And I was like, oh, well, I mean, it's kind of like a chronic thing, so it's never really going to go away. It's just kind of like a forever thing. And he looked at me, and then he looked straight ahead at the elevator buttons, and then he looked down. Deep sigh. Whee. Did not look up or look at me or talk to me for the rest of the elevator. It felt like a really long elevator ride. And I, got on my floor, got off. I think I smiled. It shut him down. He couldn't take it in. He couldn't compute it. It was, to me, it was the fact that I had stunned him back into his like mother tongue. Like, it was the fact that like he was like, oh, I'm back. I'm full French again. I can't compute with this. This isn't right. I need you to get better in like 5 to 6 business days, please. And I found that hilarious. And also, to me, it's really insightful into how a lot of people view chronic illness. We're not used to illnesses being chronic. We're used to there being a finish line that we're cheering for, that we can celebrate you when you reach it. And when there's no finish line to celebrate, we don't know how long we're supposed to call. There's kind of like social protocols for us to follow. And when someone has a chronic illness, there's really not a social protocol. Chronic illness, not knowing what the right response is. And that leads to a lot of like awkward situations, social blunders, or just social weirdness, which I'm sure not everyone has this perspective, but for me, I find it really funny and kind of delightful. I think it's like the comedy side of my brain that if I'm kind of like locked in whenever a weird thing's happening, as long as it's not antagonistic, I'm like, this is gold. Please continue. I want to live in my own weird little sitcom. So this is really adding to the illusion and the delusion. So thank you. And even though this is going to be a podcast that is for anyone with any sort of chronic illness, I really believe and hope you will find benefit in here, even if you don't have Ehlers-Danlos syndrome. I do have Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, and it is Ehlers-Danlos syndrome Awareness Month, all of May. I think one of the biggest things that's important to remember when it comes to Ehlers-Danlos syndrome is, especially with EDS Awareness Month, a lot of the other subtypes of EDS can feel kind of left out or like they're not being touched on, because hypermobile Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, which is what I have, is one of the most common types of EDS. And I think they're saying now that like 1 in 500 people have hEDS. So it's not actually as rare as we were initially led to believe. It was actually just super, super underdiagnosed. And because it predominantly affects women, and you see the symptoms more intensely in women, it's way underdiagnosed because women are more likely to be told that they're just having anxiety, or, it's deconditioning, or this, that, and the other that they need to take care of before the doctors will actually look at like the chronic pain or chronic issues that they're having. But because hypermobile Ehlers-Danlos syndrome is the most common, when it comes to EDS Awareness Month, I've heard from people who have the other subtypes that they feel kind of drowned out in the noise of everyone being like, this is how you use your KT tape, and like giving advice that is specific to hEDS. And I do think it is important to bring up that I believe that there are 13 other subtypes of EDS, some of them directly affecting the vascular system, and hEDS is the only one that does not currently have a genetic marker. So all of the other ones, you can run a genetics test and you can see the marker in your DNA. hEDS is the of diagnosing it. And once they know that you do have EDS, one of the ways they rule out the other conditions is doing a genetic test and seeing, okay, you don't have vascular EDS, you don't have CEIDS, you don't have, all of these other ones. And when I speak about EDS, I will predominantly be talking about hypermobile Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, just because that's where I have the most knowledge. I'm not a clinician, I'm not a doctor. What I have to bring to the table is my lived experience. And my lived experience is with the hypermobile type of EDS. cardiovascular EDS. I don't. Um, but I'm more than happy to talk about things that I do know, and more than happy to have someone on to talk about their experience with one of those other conditions within the EDS subtype family. You can go to the edssociety.com to learn more about EDS, current research that's being done, and to find a directory of different practices that treat people with EDS. So, circling back to the story with the Frenchman, some interactions are kind of funny and haha awkward, and some of them are a little bit more dysregulating in nature. And I'm very curious to know what you do to help regulate your nervous system after a particularly unpleasant or intense interaction with someone in the wilds. For me, getting outside is one of the best ways for me to regulate. I need one of the elements, preferably all of them, but at least one of them. You know, getting out and feeling the grass and sitting and listening to the birds and having what I like to call a 90s evening where I turn my phone off. And if anyone knows me in real life, you know how annoyingly difficult I am to get a hold of most of the time. And that's because I am prone to turning my phone off. I am prone to putting it on Do Not Disturb. And that's one of the ways that I regulate my nervous system. Have what I like to call a 90s evening where you turn off your phone, bring out a notebook, maybe a book, get a nice like little something to drink, and just sit outside and listen. Listen to your neighbors, listen to the birds, listen to the squirrels, listen to the wind in the trees, and just be present and don't expect anything from yourself or your nervous system, and really let yourself kind of get refilled and regulated. Getting into water as well for me makes a huge difference. It's very cleansing and kind of helps to get my brain off of that bad interaction. If I'm looping on it, just kind of jolts me into it, whether it's jumping in the pool or into a body of water or into a bathtub. Well, don't jump into a bathtub. Get slowly into, if you have pots, get slowly into like lukewarm water and be gentle with yourself. But you get the idea. I like to put a little bit of essential oils, maybe some lavender, something very relaxing, in with some magnesium salts or Epsom salt flakes. I personally find magnesium salt works better, but just from an emotional reset, it doesn't really matter. Just something that feels like you're kind of nurturing and taking care of yourself. And ending on a nice little comfort show rewatch is never going to be a bad thing. I think the main takeaway is just kind of resetting and getting your brain off of it. So whatever works best for you to do that. Because at the end of the day, if people are going to be ugly, they're going to be ugly. And there's nothing you can really do to fix that. And I think that's why I find the story with the Frenchman or like any of those sort of like awkward social encounters kind of funny and almost endearing, because those are the sort of people that, you know, probably want to be more educated and have an interest in being more educated and don't want to do or say the wrong thing. And that's why it's coming out awkward. Those are the sort of people you could have productive conversations with if you wanted to. When people are coming at you already antagonistic, already angry, already set in their ways and convinced that you are doing something to them by existing, you can't and you shouldn't try to engage with that sort of dialogue, because it's just going to be harmful for you. You know what the phrase is? Don't wrestle with the pig because you'll get dirty and the pig will like it. Like that to me is the epitome of that. Like don't stoop to their level, because they're just going to be like, cool, I got a sparring buddy, and you're going to end up kind of bruised up a little bit. Next episode, we're going to be talking about chronic after the chronic illness diagnosis. And if you're someone who loves someone with a chronic illness, we're also going to be talking about ways that we can come alongside and support our friends with chronic illness and make them feel loved and seen, even if they are showing up differently than they did maybe a year or two ago in the friendship. Obviously, we're just starting out, so if you want to like and or leave a review wherever you're listening, would much appreciate. And if you're watching on YouTube, hello, thanks so much for being here. Feel free to leave a comment. Looking forward to talking with you guys, and getting to know you more as we're going on this journey of living a flexible life. hEDS Society resources will be linked in the description box below wherever you're listening and or watching, and I will catch you guys next time.